Bioenergetics. Only one word, but to clarify these things, we need to understand a series of things. And this is the content that I have written, only 5 contents based on SSC level biology and of course O level biology, because you know this word is a basic word of biology, and here we need to definitely consider 2 main processes. Number 1 is photosynthesis and number 2 is respiration. Actually, when you will go to the HSC level biology, HSC level and of course A level, in both cases in English versions and English medium, and even in higher biology, when you'll study it, you know this is individually look like a book. And photosynthesis, again, it's the same word, one word, but it has thousands of reactions, thousands of changes, chemical changes inside photosynthesis. And in this class, I shall only explain that what we will need to consider and what we need to understand to think about the bioenergetics. So, number 1 is the role of ATP. Before going to explain ATP, you must know that in this chapter there are some new words you will be studying. That is, number 1 is ADP, okay? Number 2 is ATP. Number 3 is NADPH, and then NADPH2. So, and there are lots of other coenzymes also, but I just try to make it very simple. So, what is actually bioenergetics? Before going to explain this, we need to know what is bioenergy. So, the bioenergy is the process of utilizations. We can say that process of production. We can say that production and utilizations of the energy to maintain life or biological process of living organism. I just wrote from my like shortest knowledge that though I really not sure that what is the main chronological part of these, but process of production and utilizations of the energy to maintain life is bioenergy. And we need to think very deeply that how photosynthesis and respirations are related. How photosynthesis is going on in green leaf, and then this green leaf has the main power like the solar energy, and they can transform this energy from the light energy to the chemical energy, and then they produce glucose, that is the food for the other heterotrophic animals like us. We don't have chlorophyll inside our cells, and so that we don't have the capability to utilize the sunlight to produce food. But green leaves, those who have the capabilities to transform this energy from solar to chemical energy, they are producing this glucose, and that is called photosynthesis. In next class, I shall explain about photosynthesis, and then we will see that what the main elaborations of the process. It requires a series of class to explain photosynthesis, and also in case of respiration it also requires series of class to explain it. So the process of production and utilizations of the energy to maintain life is the bioenergy. So at first we need to see that what we need to consider in this chapter. First is ADP. What is ADP? In case of elaboration of this word, we say this is adenosine diphosphate. It means 2-phosphate is attached in the form. So adenosine, and then ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. In NADPH, it's actually nicotinamide, adenine dinucleotide. Adenosine, nicotinamide, adenosine dinucleotide, hydrogen phosphate. But when it is actually NADPH2, it means NADPH plus H plus. So adding proton with any compounds is actually the reduction process, and then when it is actually NADPH2, then the name would be reduced NADP, and that is NADPH2. So I just explained in the very first time of this lecture that what is these four words: ADP, ATP, NADPH and NADPH2, and these two will be most common words to explain this chapter. So what is ATP? You must know it's adenosine triphosphate. That means in these compounds there are 3 phosphate is attached to the molecules. And NADPH2, this is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide hydrogen phosphate, or reduced NADP. So these 2 words will be the keywords for this chapter. So I am removing it, and then now turning to the point that ATP is called biological coin. Why? Or it's called energy coin. So why it's called energy coin? As because ATP is the form of stored energy, and when when energy is required, ATP can distribute, or ATP can produce energy to perform the metabolic process and to perform the biological reactions inside the living organisms, and that is why ATP is called the biological coin or energy coin. How? You must know one thing, that ADP is adenosine diphosphate. So here is 2 phosphate attached. When with ADP, an inorganic phosphate, you see it, inorganic phosphate, it attached with ADP with the help of sunlight, and chlorophyll, then it will be producing ATP, which is actually triphosphate. So you think about this, ADP is a diphosphate, and then 1 phosphate is adding with ADP, and it will produce ATP, which is triphosphate, and also 1 molecule of water or 2 molecules of water will be produced. So this is ATP, the adenosine triphosphate, and then you need to think as an inorganic phosphate, which is actually H3PO4, you know that phosphate ion, this is the phosphate. So this phosphate, when it is attached with ADP with the help of sunlight, this process is called photophosphorylation. This is very important. And then this is very common questions in your exam paper, like what is phosphorylation? What is phosphorylation? Phosphorylation is the process when phosphate ion is added to any compounds. So as phosphate, this is inorganic phosphate, is adding with ADP, this process is called phosphorylation. as this phosphorylation is occurring with the help of sunlight, that is why this process is called photophosphorylation. So you must know the second word is photophosphorylation. So why phosphorylation? What is phosphorylation? Adding phosphate with any compounds. But when this phosphorylation will be occurring with the help of sunlight, then it's called photophosphorylation. And this photo is called light. Light under the help of sunlight. And same is here. Photosynthesis. Under the sunlight, with the help of sunlight, some synthesis is going on. And this synthesis going on in the green leaf with the help of chlorophyll inside. And that is why this process is called photosynthesis. So you know that how ATP is formed? ATP is formed with the help of ATP and one inorganic phosphate. And you know, very important thing, that is the third phosphate bond. Third bond is attached with this molecule, and here 7,300 calorie amount of energy stored. So these amount of energy is stored in ATP, and also when required, ATP can break down and can produce ADP and inorganic phosphate and can release the energy. And that is why, as energy is stored in the form of ATP and also it can be reused when it required, that is why ATP is called biological coin or energy coin. That is very important. So as this will be a series of lecture and I will be uploading classes, and then next class will be photosynthesis and then respiration. And you know, the students right now are English version, and you know, when you open the chapter, it has a lot of things to explain. It has many new words. It's very interesting words, and it's all about the biochemistry. So when you start this chapter, you will have the taste of feeling of like biochemistry. And that is why this is the basic to understand the chapter. Right now I shall be explaining about, you understand this thing, then I can remove. So when you think that you understand ATP as a biological coin, and you understand the elaborations of ATP and NADPH2, you know the naming of that. Now you need to understand one thing, that this is photosynthesis. You understand the role of ATP? Because the ATP is the store, unit of energy, and it can be reused when it is required for the living cell. So photosynthesis is that, you know, that leaf and plants can use carbon dioxide and water from the land, and it's producing very important thing, which is glucose, and then also oxygen, and then again water through the process of transpiration. And you know the word transpiration, releasing water as vapor through the stomata. And this oxygen is required for us, for the living organism, for the entire universe to breathe, and that we need the oxygen that is releasing from this process, photosynthesis. And also all the living organisms, animal kingdom actually, those do not have chlorophyll in their body. They are really depending on green leaf or plants for their food, and this is the food, glucose. So C6H12O6 is producing through this process, photosynthesis. And now you see this carbon dioxide, we need to maintain the equal balance in both reactant and product. So we need to put here 6 and 12. How? And this should be 6 and this should be 6. So you can see that the amount of oxygen atom, hydrogen atom and carbon atom would be similar here and there. So both in case of reactant and product, the atom number are same. But the main thing is that here you see carbon dioxide is adding or reacting with water. So in this process, carbon dioxide is reducing, this is very important, and water is oxidized. You must remember that in case of photosynthesis, carbon dioxide reduction is going on. How it's going on, I will explain it on later, because it has two steps. Photosynthesis has two steps. Number one, light dependent phase. Light dependent phase means where in this step sunlight is required, but in this case light independent phase, sunlight is not required, but the production of light dependent phase ATP and NADPH2 will definitely work here to produce glucose. In this class I'm just explaining the primary concept of the chapter that I will discuss on the next class. So this will be discussing issues on the next class, that what is LDP, that means light dependent phase, but in case of chapter 10 when you'll study about phytohormones, this LDP has a different meaning, which is long day plants. So that is different issue, and that is about the photoperiodism. But here light dependent phase, that means that in this phase sunlight is mandatory, and in this phase light independent phase sunlight is not required, but the productions of LDP will definitely work here to produce glucose. And in this case carbon dioxide is required from the atmosphere. And this is also again a very important basic, that in atmosphere you see the percentage of carbon dioxide is 0.03%. In atmosphere carbon dioxide percentage is 0.03%, but in water the percentage of carbon dioxide is 0.3%. It means the availability of carbon dioxide, or the percentage of carbon dioxide in water, is higher than the atmosphere, and that is why those plants are aquatic plants. Aquatic plants, the rate of photosynthesis is higher in aquatic plants than the land plants, because the land plants will have carbon dioxide which is about 0.03%, but those are aquatic plants, they will have more carbon dioxide as they're having in the water, so they can have the carbon dioxide at least 10 times greater than the land plants. So that is why the rate of photosynthesis of aquatic plants is higher than the land plants. So you must remember the percentage composition, though it's highly variable, and right now this world is producing much carbon dioxide, so it will be definitely increasing. But comparatively right now, the aquatic plants will have much more rate of photosynthesis. So you understand this thing. And right now, one thing is also important. Then when you understand photosynthesis, you know the C3 cycle and C4 cycle will be the next issues to understand how C3 cycle and C4 cycle is going on, and who are the inventor. You know, Melvin Kelvin in 1905, and then Hatch and Slack, scientists, who invented this C4 cycle. When you understand photosynthesis, then you need to know how respiration is going on. In case of respiration, that this glucose is already consumed by the living organism. All the living organisms, they need food for livings, and they definitely needs energy for their living life. So C6H12O6 is the glucose that is produced by this process. And then when a living organism will consume this glucose, they require oxygen to oxidize glucose, and then they will produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy. This is the thing that we need in our body, and it's actually 686 kilocalorie per mole energy. So it means that when one molecule of glucose will be oxidized, 6 molecules of carbon dioxide and 6 molecules of water will be produced, and the required thing there will need energy. This amount of ATP will be produced, and it's approximately, actually this is 38 amount of ATP, and this 38 amount of ATP is equivalent to 686 kilocalorie per mole. Though it's not actually equivalent to, there are some loss of energy will be happening. At least in case of respirations, the efficiency is near about 55.4%. I will explain it later how this percentage is being calculated and what are the steps of respiration. You know that respiration is two types: aerobic respiration and anaerobic respirations. In aerobic respirations, there are again 4 steps actually. Number 1, glycolysis. Number 2, acetyl-CoA formation. Number 3, very important, Krebs cycle. And number 4 is electron transport system or electron transport chain. So these 4 steps maintains the aerobic respirations, but in anaerobic respirations, where we don't have the multicellular cells, it will be happening on unicellular cells like bacteria and other things. Then 2 steps only in case of anaerobic respiration. So this is the discussed issues in this entire chapter. So this is the first video where I am only explaining that what is the discussed issue, and if you understand that what I am delivering right now about photosynthesis and about respiration, if you can understand the relations between these 2 reactions, then this chapter would be very much interesting for you. Students of English versions and O-level, please, when you will study, try to understand, to think it clearly with a good concept and how this thing's going on. And of course, those of you who are watching my videos, you definitely know better than me sometimes. Please do let me know what is some limit. There should be some limitations in my lectures, because of course each and everyone has some limitations. Do let me know your requirements and of course your feedback. And next class I shall be explaining about photosynthesis. I shall be explaining about light dependent phase, light independent phase, C3 cycle, C4 cycle, and then of course respirations. And in this case there will be more than 9 or 10 lectures based on this chapter. So see you and take care, stay well, study from heart. Bye.